Good morning and welcome to Morning Java, sponsored as always by our friends at Citrix GoToMeeting, the online meeting solution that hosts more than 60 million meetings a year. Learn more at gotomeeting.com. Really gotten that 60 down.
You've gotten it. You know, it's not the easiest number to remember.
No, but the whole thing has just become, we're getting smooth with it. Let's talk a little college hoops. And yes, I know it's July, but the gentleman to my left, Lance Lysowski, has been covering some hoops in McKees Rocks.
Hard to believe, huh?
And it's quality hoops. And first of all, tell people about the who's there and how it works.
Okay, we'll start Pittsburgh Basketball Club's Pro-Am Summer League. So you have players from Pitt, Duquesne, Robert Morris. Plus
some of their best guys.
Some of their best guys too. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're not freshmen or walk-ons or anything like that. And you also have players who went to high school in the Pittsburgh area, who go to colleges across the country, really. Mm-hmm. You have international players, guys who played at Pitt or these other schools who are back in the area. So very competitive league. You got 8 teams, almost 3 weeks long. Championship game is next Wednesday.
And they go at it. That needs to be underscored here. You listen to these guys talk, even like at or after the city game when Pitt and Duquesne play each other. They all know each other. They know each other, not necessarily in a good way. Even some are teammates, but some go at each other, and it's nasty.
There is trash talking, and there's actually defense. I think that's the one thing that is kind of the misconception. It's not like this is a pickup game at the YMCA where guys are just running up and down the floor.
Their coaches want to see them play defense in these leagues.
Oh, they do, and it's funny because you see some of these coaches. They're former high school coaches, former college coaches. Drew Schaffino, a former standout at West Virginia, has been coaching a team. Mm-hmm. So these guys, they want to test their players. No, they're not doing intricate play calls, but there are a bunch of timeouts being taken. These are game situations. Every once in a while, you get a game that there's no defense, but for the most part, it's been tremendous basketball.
And you mentioned, too, that these are open to the public, and people show.
Oh, people show. They love to come out. They like to see, who's going to be the next star at Pitt, especially with the new coach and these freshmen, who's the point guard. And it's funny, you see those crowds come to the games where these players are playing, where Damon Wilson's playing, where Justice Kithcart is playing.
Well, you mentioned Pitt. You suggested at least a reference to Kevin Stallings, the new coach, and it sounds like already he's got to be having some kind of imprint on this team because you've written about Jamel Artis playing as a point guard, although not completely point guard, based on the way Mike Young described it to you. What is that all about, first of all? That's a pretty important move.
I think it is. And you look at Artis has some of those qualities you look for in a point guard.
Does.
He can handle the ball. He makes good decisions most of the time. I will put most of the time in there as an asterisk. And he can shoot the ball.
He can
He's
shoot
a guy
the
who
ball.
can spread teams out.
But when you talk about most of his bad decisions have been related to what? Driving to the hoop. He just, every once in a while, he'll look smooth doing it, but most often he won't. Yeah. So if you make him a point guard and you basically put him in charge of the offense, that's at least worth a look.
Oh, it definitely is. And he wanted this opportunity. It's not a guy who's overwhelmed by being put in that position to run a new offense, especially, he wanted more opportunities with Jamie Dixon as head coach.
He wanted the ball in his hands.
He wanted the ball in his hands. He thought that he did take, the second most shots on the team last year, so you could argue how is that?
Yeah, but even then, Jamie had him in kind of that old Ashton Gibbs role where he'd be the trigger guy off this side because Jamie's always wanted to have that pure shooting guard. Well, Ashton was that. I don't know that Jamel wants the ball in his hands.
He wants it in his hands, and I think a lot of people are, how is he going to play that position? He's 6'7". He's not your traditional point guard. Yeah. And going back to what you said about what Mike Young said, this offense, it's not strictly, okay, well, you're the point guard.
No.
Jamel. This is a guy they're going to move around a lot.
Mike can shoot from the outside.
Oh, Mike can shoot from the outside. You got Chris Jones who can shoot from the outside. This team isn't limited. I think that, Sheldon Jeter's not going to be your point guard, but...
No, but at the same time, you have other options, Pitt does, to work a pure point guard position, but those guys also have other dimensions, don't they?
No, they do. They do. And I think that one aspect that is being overlooked is that you can use Jamel Artis early as strictly your point guard, while Justice Kithcart, while Damon Wilson, they get adjusted to the system. You don't have to rush those guys into that position to run your offense.
Because even those guys are different. Damon is more of a driving, slashing point guard who can create his own plays. And on all of these things, I don't want to sound mean about James Robinson. I'm going to turn the page here, but all of those things are things that James Robinson couldn't do. James Robinson was a guy who would bring the ball up the floor, and that was pretty much it. And for Pitt to have point guards that can do a lot of different things, it could be a very different look. Now, Duquesne has players at this camp as well, and one in particular has impressed you.
Freshman Isaiah Mike. I love his skill set. He's a big guy. He's a pure scorer. Was a third-ranked player out of Canada coming into this out of this last recruiting class,
which is a good thing.
It's
I mean, they do play basketball in Canada,
and it's growing, especially in the Toronto area. And I like his skill set, and there is a need there. And this is a team that lost a lot. They were hit hard, and they're really looking for that scoring threat. I know it's hard to put high expectations on a freshman, but you gotta love what the kid does and what he's capable of doing.
Yeah, when you say he fills a need at Duquesne, it means he has a neck and can breathe. I mean, right, look, I went to Duquesne, all right? I can say what I want. Losing Micah Mason, losing Derek Coulter, this team is going to be really, really rough this coming season. And that's saying something within the Duke standards, within the context of the fact that Jim Ferry has yet to have a successful season at Duquesne. How does that look right now? Yeah, I know.
Well, the thing is going to be that you're going to have to play guys like Isaiah Mike,
a lot
early, and allow them to make mistakes out there. You're not going to be able to bring them along slowly. You put them out there, you let the team grow, and see where this program goes with these young guys. I mean, these recruiting classes they brought in have been fairly highly regarded in terms of, it's Duquesne.
Okay.
They're not going to. It's Duquesne. Okay, not to say anything bad about Duquesne, but they're not going to recruit the quality players that ACC teams recruit.
No,
but they are finding guys that
they're not going to recruit the quality players that the upper echelon of the Atlantic 10 is going to recruit. Let's. I mean, this isn't Davidson. This isn't St. Louis. These aren't the Dayton and.
Recent resume has a lot to do with that. They need to be successful. They need to prove that they can compete in the A10, and part of that is having these guys they're bringing in succeed.
Which is the catch-22 we've been looking at for about 30 years now on the Bluff, with no end in sight. Things look a little bit brighter out in Coriopolis. Robert Morris has some talent coming back. Andy Toole has been adamant that the team would be stronger than it was last season. What have you seen in the early stages of the Pro-Am to support that?
Well, what I was disappointed about was that Matty McConnell's not been able to play. He's recovering from shoulder surgery. That's a kid that, obviously, the brother TJ McConnell, who played at Duquesne, transferred to Arizona, has that scoring touch. He's a really great shooter.
He's a McConnell.
Yeah.
They
Basketball IQ, very smart player.
They were hitting three-pointers out of the womb, all of them.
All of them. All of them. But he's a guy that I think could really be that scorer that Robert Morris has been missing maybe a little bit.
They've missed a true gunner.
A true gunner,
for a while.
A true guy who can run that offense. And I think Isaiah Still is another guy who is playing in the Pro-Am that I really like as a player.
Why? What are you saying? Yeah.
He's got size. He's a stretch forward. He can shoot from the outside. This is a guy that came in as a freshman last year. He played some meaningful minutes, but they really, from the word I've been hearing from Robert Morris is that he's really stepped up and he's going to be that guy they're looking to be the leading scorer.
That's what I was going to ask you. Since the Pro-Am is being held out in the western part of the city anyway, that's where Robert Morris is here. What's the general buzz about the Colonials? Are they going to bounce back?
I'm hearing a lot more positive news about Robert Morris and Duquesne because they like the players they have coming back.
Okay, compare them to Duquesne.
They like what they have coming back, and I think that's an important thing. They like how guys are progressing, particularly Still. You see some of their other guys who have been competing there. They've got Lorenzen Wright Jr., whose father played for the Memphis Grizzlies in the NBA, who really highly regarded kid that another one of those guys you're wondering how did he end up at Robert Morris. Well, he probably ended up at Robert Morris because he's going to be able to play early. He's going to be able to fill that role.
There's a great value to that. And one thing about colleges is there's only 5 spots out there. Actually, there's only 5 spots on any basketball team, but you know that there's a difference between basketball and football in that regard. Guys want to get on the court and they want to play. And it sounds like even with Robert Morris and Duquesne, there's going to be a chance for some younger guys to get out there early. When does basketball season start?
November.
So a little early.
But hey, Christmas in July.